Hi Niall, this is Sean O'Neill and this is my SLFXCA3 Screencast. For my scenario, my room, I created a new level. I didn't use my one from CA1. I designed this scene here as closely as I could. I thought it worked as quite a good scene because lighting plays quite a large part in it, with the bloom here, and then the lighting off through the window here, and then the little lights along the furniture all play a nice part, I think. I thought it was a nice, clean, crisp scene for me to do. I used relatively straightforward materials in my scene. The most complicated one was just a simple lerp between two colors on a light function. I used, to scale my meshes correctly, I used the starting scene, the one with the table and the two chairs, and I just kind of scaled everything off of that, so I think it scaled quite nicely. And to avoid overusing the same textures, I created quite a few instances of my textures, of my materials, and then was able to change nice things in those. You mentioned up above the Red Rocket garage type thing, so that gave me an idea as to stuff to put into my scene. But other than that, it's quite a small scene. It doesn't take any more than 10 to 15 seconds to walk around. And I'll get into my scene now, and then I'll go into the post-processing requirements shortly after that. Let's give you a quick look at the scene. So this is my recreation of the scene. It's in a similar camera angle to this picture, so I think it works pretty well. Then I have this in the corner, because that was kind of when you said Red Rocket Garage. I know you weren't telling us to make it Fallout 4 or anything related, but this is, I imagine, power armor or some robots that they have in the future in a sci-fi type building like this. So then I have a smaller version of that to kind of just add some more props to the scene on the table here. So that'd be maybe kind of like a toy or an action figure or something. And then I have the bed and the table, and then just some little props here again. That's the Unreal thing, and that's one I made myself. That was an alarm clock. The textures are fairly simple. Like the wall here, that's just a diffuse color, not a diffuse map. Diffuse color on with a normal map and an ambient occlusion map, and same with this wall, which I really like. I'm quite proud of that one. And the floor has a diffuse map of black on white. I'll show you now. So that, because it would be difficult to do just with one texture. And then it's got metallic, but it's got a normal and an ambient occlusion map, and I think it's really nice, as it makes it look like it's a lot more high poly count than it is. It's just a flat surface, but it makes it look like it has dips and things. One problem was it didn't reflect the lighting as nicely on the black, but that's just kind of happens. That's a door. I have it red, the lights around it, to kind of indicate that it's locked. And this material here is it was taken from one of the base materials. I have it here, the bloom lock. So it's taken from the tech panel, the texture sample, and then I just feed the blue channel in to this, and then I can change the emissive color because it's a parameter, and the emissive color just controls those little bars on the texture. And then I have the normal map as well, and just kind of a base color which changes this main color. So if I go to one of the instances, I have this one is blue. So they're blue. It's not showing very well, so I'll just have a look at one of the other instances then. That's red on a metallic. See, it's fully metallic, and then it has a roughness of 2, and you can change all those around. And then the base color here is grey, so 0.7, 0.7, 0.7. If I change this up to 1, then it changes the actual color of the main body of it. So I'll just exit that out now. The roof is the same. It's just a diffuse color with a normal map and an ambient occlusion map. So I think it's quite low cost, this whole scene. I'll play my matinee now and I'll talk through it. So it's on a loop. It's 25 seconds long, and it's set to on play. And then I have the camera movements. I have a dolly like here. I have then trucking at over by the bed in the first camera. I have a pedestal here and a pan here. So we're coming up to the trucking now. This is kind of a dolly with a slight pan, and then we have trucking to the side, and then dollying backwards. You can see the depth of field coming through here. I have it set so that anything close is blurry, because I didn't feel the scene was big enough to have distance blur, so too far. And the reason that the two robots are blurring so much is because that's where I changed my depth of field based on camera movement. And I have the light on the robot model coming up here. That's changing color based on camera movement. So that's the requirements, one of the requirements. My post-processing techniques before the matinee, of course, I have my global post-process volume in my settings. The ones you're looking for are depth of field, screen space reflections, auto exposure, and color correction. So my depth of field, I went with a Gaussian blur because apparently it's less computationally intensive, and I quite liked the effect it got, whereas the other ones, the bokeh and the circle depth of field, they were a bit more subtle. I just kind of wanted to just throw subtlety out the window and really go for it, so it was obvious where I was doing it, and hopefully easier for you to correct. I didn't change these a lot. I just kind of fiddle around with them for what I needed. So like, I have a focal distance is quite small, but then the focal range is really large. So I did this to make it easier for me to control when it gets blurry when I approach an object. And then even then I kind of exaggerated that. So I have the transitions here as well, transition to near and far transitions. Near is 30, so things get kind of just gradually blurrier as I approach them until maximum blurriness. And then the far transitions less subtle, sorry, it's more subtle, but it didn't really matter as much, as the only time you really see it on the camera track is when the camera gets to about here. And if you look at the window at the stars there, there's the far depth of field affecting the very left hand side stars at the left window there. If I approach this here, then you'll see that it gets blurrier. It's probably better off to try it here where there's less light. There we go. I have bloom in my post-processing volume as well, even though it wasn't asked for, because I used it on that texture. The texture should be statically lighting the scene, and to do that and actually have it so that it's visible in the scene, I had to really just kind of drive up the bloom figures on it, which meant that I had to use the post-processing volume to bring it back down a bit. So the static lighting should still be lighting at the same amount, but it's not giving a massive lens flare or overpowering the scene. The screen space reflections I do have in. I just set them to basic figures. I don't actually think I changed any of them, because they seem to work. The tutorial said 0.8, or even here the tooltip says 0.8 works well, so I just put it for 0.8, and you can see the reflections there. It's reflecting off the wall, and even there you can see the alarm clock and the UE symbol reflecting on the wall there. The auto exposure I'll just go up here. So I set it so it's in sweet spot values. They give you sweet spots, and I have it between 75 and 95. And then I just have them set to similar things here, similar figures. But if you say go outside and then come back inside, the scene's very dark, and then it eventually just, the exposure kicks in, and then the eye adjusts. And it's the same with if you go close to anything that's really bright like this, the bloom, and then move away, eventually the auto exposure kicks in. The color correction through LUTs, through the lookup tables, I have I'm sorry, I just had to find the LUT there because I couldn't remember it was under scene color. I changed a few of these settings, but I have them all off for the basic video and the basic matinee. But then I have here's my lookup table. I just kind of washed it out, so it's desaturated, so all the colors are down a bit. But I didn't want to completely blow it out because I want to make it look more a bit realistic. And then with the other settings, such as like the vignette or vignette, the grain, then you add all that in. You kind of have a last life before you're dead in Left 4 Dead effect. And if I play it here, it just kind of looks more horror movie-esque, or very much so. Like, sorry about the drop in quality there. I apparently ran out of disk space according to Screen Recorder, Screencast-O-Matic. So it shouldn't affect the video, hopefully, because it's just the same. I just played this through Matinee, all the different stuff, the effects that I have there. So I'll just carry on now. The Matinee requirements, I talked through some of these. I have 3 cameras, 1 static, 2 moving, well, 1 static in quotation marks. It was static, and then I added the pedestal and pan move to it. And then the crossfade between my cameras I do have, I'll show you that in a minute. My 4 common camera movements, I have a couple of dollies, 1 truck, a pedestal and a pan at the end. I've animated the light on the model robot to change color with my camera, and I've changed the depth of field settings a few times. They look a bit gaudy, but it was kind of a demonstrate it, so really kind of make it less subtle. So there's my 3 cameras. 1 starts here, that's 2 starts there, and 3 is up here. I'll play now. So there's our dolly movement forward. Then we get to a truck movement to the right here, yep. And then we dolly movement backwards. And we transition to camera 2 here. There's the crossfade. And then that blur there, that was the changing the depth of field of the camera, the same with on the robot the first time. So I'll just go back through that now. As soon as you change the camera 2, after the first crossfade, it's really blurry on the robot. That's intentional, that's the depth of field, and then I change it to bring it into focus. And then it's the same here. He's out of focus, and then I bring him into focus, and then another crossfade, and that's the last camera with the pedestal and the pan. And that's really everything. Yeah. Thank you for listening.